Good afternoon. My name is Glenn Midkiff, and I'm the Director for Center for Stakeholder Engagement in the Lewis College of Business at Marshall University. And today we have our Cohen Business Professionalism Speaker Series. And we have a very special guest today, an alum, and I'll introduce him shortly. But to let you know a little bit more about our speaker series, it's a professional enrichment program. It's been offered for the past 3 years in the Lewis College of Business. And the series allows students from the Bradley Smith Schools of Business to make a connection between classroom teachings and professionals, okay? And this series, this year's theme is Game Changers in Business and Beyond. And we're seeking how to understand how Marshall alumni and friends have been successful and innovative in their world of work. And so students who complete this program, they receive a formal printed certificate and a great portfolio and a lapel pin. And so we are excited to welcome today our speaker. And like I said, he's a Marshall alum. His name is Cory Copolo. I want to make sure I got that last name pronounced correctly. And he's a graduate of Marshall University. He graduated with a degree in business in 2013. And he graduated with a degree in management with a dual minor in marketing and entrepreneurship. He attributes his work ethic, his leadership, and his dedication to team building and his experience as an athlete. He's a two-time football state champion with Bluefield Beavers. He has a competitive background, and with his business education, with his degree from Marshall, ASSB accredited, he joined the Railroad Norfolk Southern Management's training program upon graduation. And then after a year with them, he was promoted to train master, where he managed staffing, safety, efficiency, logistics, and infrastructure. And it was a multi-major or multi-billion-dollar freight transportation company. And then he served his role of the train master for the same company in Indiana, and I think probably looks like Indiana, Dayton, Ohio, and Buffalo, New York. In 2018, he had an opportunity to transition in sales to N3. It's an outsourced inside sales company serving elite blue chip technology companies, and I'll let him get into more in that with that in his presentation. He served there for the past 2 years. He was promoted as sales manager, and he's led a team of innovators focused on building revenues for some of the world's most well-known tech companies. A Bluefield native, Cory is proud to be back home in West Virginia, contributing to the economic revitalization of the state. And he's honored to speak today. So please welcome Cory Copolo.
Hey, thanks, Glenn.
You're very welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Cohen, thank you as well for sponsoring this. So good afternoon, everybody. As Glenn said, my name is Cory Copolo. I am a sales manager for N3. I'm honored to have this opportunity to be able to come back and speak to you all today. As Glenn mentioned, again, I'm a proud graduate from the Marshall University Lewis College of Business. West Virginia native from Bluefield, born and raised. And after I graduated from Marshall, as he mentioned, I took a management role with one of the top freight railroad companies in the United States. It took me everywhere from West Virginia up and down the East Coast and Midwest. And again, I'm proud to say I've been back home since 2018. Full disclosure for everybody on the line. My boss, Ken Boggs, was scheduled to speak with you all today, but he had an unavoidable schedule conflict. So you're getting me instead. But I promise it'll be well worth your time to listen to Ken speak when that opportunity arises again. As a colonel in the United States Army and a battalion commander, Ken is a consummate leader of people. And I've had the good fortune of learning and growing my own leadership skills under him for the last 2 years. You can believe me because he's not on the call to make me say those things. So I can certainly understand why he was selected. And I hope, Glenn, that we can still get him on the schedules. I know he would also really appreciate the opportunity to share with everyone as well. So my only real agenda for the conversation today is to share my own leadership story with you. We'll keep this session very light and informal. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. As mentioned, when I graduated from the College of Business in May 2013, I had a bachelor's degree in management and 2 minors in entrepreneurship and marketing. Like a lot of graduates, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with my life at that point, but I knew I wanted to use my degree. So after about 2 months, I received a call from a family friend who had worked for Norfolk Southern as a conductor and went through their management training program. He called me and asked if I would be interested in looking into it. Um, I didn't know if that was something I was going to be interested in, but after living at home in my childhood bedroom for 2 months, my parents and I thought that was a great opportunity as it was the only one. So in the summer of 2014, flew to Atlanta, Georgia to start my management career with Norfolk Southern. I was in class with about 25 recent college graduates who, like me, were excited for the opportunity to start a career in managing transportation operations. After the first few months of our classroom training, we were predominantly learning railroad rules and operations, lingo, things that you needed to understand if you didn't come from a railroad background. And then they sent us off to our training post to receive on-the-job training. I was fortunate and headed back to West Virginia. I went to Williamson to start my railroad career. This is where I got my first real lesson in leadership style. I came completely green, and after only a few months of classroom training, I thought I knew how to railroad, and I was going to lead people, and they were going to do it my way. So you're talking about managing people who have been doing this their whole life since they were 18 years old, people who were twice my age. But again, I was going to instruct them on how to railroad. It never really crossed my mind at any point during my training that I might not be well received by all the employees that I was charged with leading. And it took some time for me to really gain any traction and respect because I wasn't willing to alter my thinking. And to be honest, I was hesitant of trusting union employees based on some stories that I had been told with the us versus them mentality. And so after one particular negative interaction with a veteran railroader, he shared with me something that really just transformed the style in which I chose to lead. He told me that he had recently lost a family member, and work was really the only thing he had going for him at the time. Had I been willing to just stop and pay attention to him, I could have obviously seen that there was something going on that whole week. I knew at that point there was nothing more crucial than getting to know the people who you're in charge of leading. From that day on, I was much more open to learning from those around me. I realized that I wasn't leading anyone before that. I was actually holding myself back. So once I allowed people to help me and show me the proper way to do things, life as a railroader became much more enjoyable. I was firm yet understanding with my employees, and there was a mutual respect between me and the crews that I led. There's certainly a heightened level of responsibility in managing railroad conductors and transportation in general. The programs that some of the railroads around the country have designed, the management programs, are very effective at teaching rules and regulations because it's consistently a life and death situation every day. But there's no substitute for boots on the ground, on the job training. After that one conversation in Williamson, everywhere else I managed railroaders, I went from Georgia to Pennsylvania, Indiana, Ohio, and then finally in New York. I made it a point to get to know my people at every stop. What motivates them, what gets them out of bed in the morning. And I think that to be an effective leader, that's something that just is paramount. You absolutely have to learn and grow that skill. So in 2013, I did leave the railroad when I got an opportunity to come back home to West Virginia and start a career in technology sales. I took a position with N3 as an entry-level business-to-business sales rep with no experience in technology, no experience in sales. And it was at that point that, again, I was professionally humbled. It was a new experience. And even though I didn't have a deep background in sales, I always aced my marketing classes, Glenn, I promise. But it makes sense to me to be able to provide someone a product or service that they need and don't have. So simple enough, right? um, I thought I would have an opportunity to shine in a new role. And all I can say is that I'm incredibly thankful that N3 sales reps do not solely rely on commission and are salaried, because I struggled. My first few months with N3, I had 0 deals. I had no sales. And I was starting to wonder if I had made a horrible choice in career moves. But it was at that point that I committed to, spending time on my own to definitely learn the suite of products that I was selling at that time. I was also doing a bunch of research on my own about cultivating effective sales pitches. And again, it boiled down to just knowing your people. I learned quickly that effective salespeople don't sell the same way to everyone they talk to. If you do research and understand, for instance, you're not going to sell the same way you would sell to a CFO, the way that you would sell to an operations person. A CFO is going to want to know what the product or service does, but more importantly, what can it help them save at the bottom line and make their company more efficient. So after kind of learning those things and cultivating those pitches, I became a much more effective salesperson, and then was identified as someone with my previous experience to lead people again when that opportunity arose. So fast forward to today, I've been a sales manager with N3 for almost 2.5 years now. I've had the pleasure of managing over 100 salespeople across multiple products, services, and lines from some of the biggest blue chip technology companies in the world. That comes with a lot of change, a lot of fast-paced maneuvering. But the one thing that, again, has remained constant in effective leadership is developing a understanding for who you're working with and who your people are. You should always be willing to learn, willing to evolve, and willing to just get to know those who you lead. I can say confidently that leading railroad employees and leading salespeople has some major differences. For instance, when I was managing railroaders, my number one responsibility was the safety of those who I was in charge of. I would spend the majority of my days checking for rule compliance, making sure that all employees had proper tools, proper PPE to be able to effectively move freight. And it's a very hands-on environment, whereas sales is obviously a much different environment. It's not life or death, but to be effective, you still have to provide your people with the right tools to be effective. We need to understand things like CRM technologies to make sure that we can learn our cadences to reach out and be effective for our customers. So again, there is, as a sales leader, there is an area to be effective, which is, for me now is coaching, mentoring. Whereas on the railroad, I was the one that needed some of that coaching and mentoring from the people around me. That's not to say I don't still learn from my people, because I certainly do, but there just are some vast differences there. N3 has provided me with a lot of opportunities to grow my own leadership style and a lot of knowledge. One of the ways we've done that is we offer a in-house leadership development program. We take people who are high-performing salespeople, as well as identified as team leaders and capable of becoming full leaders for the company. We have classroom learning, as well as some on-the-job training and shadowing. And so we look for ways to develop people from within. It's something that we definitely pride ourselves on. And again, given the current environment with COVID, we're very fortunate in the way we're set up. We've been working from home since March, and we have not lost anyone to COVID specifically. We've grown our business around the world. And it's just a very fortunate thing for us and for our company. So with that, I'll close. I would just like to say, again, I'd like to thank my boss, Ken, for having an unfortunate scheduling conflict. I'd like to thank Glenn for allowing me to come speak to everybody. And I'll put some information in the chat of this meeting that's got my LinkedIn, and we can connect that way, as well as my email address. But Glenn, do you have any questions from the group? Hey, Glenn, I think you might be muted.
Yeah, that was the problem here. Spotlighting you again, Cory. I actually have a question for you. Um, you spoke about N3. Could you kind of talk to me about what you do at N3? What are some, I know you all deal with a lot of different products. What are some of the products that you all deal with? What do you sell there?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, we work with some of the blue chip technology companies around the world. Our biggest customer is Microsoft, and so we do sales on behalf of Microsoft. We also work with, to name some, IBM, SAP, Cisco, and not only do we work with the blue chips, we also have what we call the commercial side of our business, which is we work with new technology startups, folks that are new to the marketplace. They come to N3 because they may not have a business to business sales team established at that point. We're really quick at ramping up and learning their products and attacking the marketplace for them. We also have companies that come to us from time to time that have been in the marketplace for a while and have struggled for whatever reason. And they come to us as a last ditch effort. And those are a lot of fun to work with as well, because when you can turn somebody's business around for them, there's definitely a rewarding feeling that comes along with that. But yeah, we are a global company, as I said. We have a lot of different roles within the business to business sales. Some companies that we work with ask us to do just what we call customer success management. So we reach out to existing customers of theirs and manage their business and make sure that all of their products and services that they have deployed are operating the way that they're intended to, as well as look for opportunities to notify them with any upcoming changes and things of that nature.
Okay, very good. So I have a question here from Nick Presley. He graduated in 2009. You may know Nick. He asked the question, you mentioned the importance of teamwork. And I think that's important, especially nowadays. Everything's virtual almost. And that makes it a little bit more difficult to form a good team and to work as a team. What do you look for as a company and, a team member? What do you, if you're hiring an intern or you're hiring someone to work for your company, what are you looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Nick. Thank you. And to answer that, we look for people who are self-motivated, absolutely, self-starters, people who are open to collaborating. Almost all of our environment is a team environment. There is no one program that has a single salesperson. We have some smaller programs that are teams of, 2 or 3, but there is an aspect of team involved in all of them. So again, especially during COVID, as you mentioned, Glenn, one area where that is definitely highlighted now is communication. We look for people who are willing to talk and share with each other. We've worked really hard to cultivate an environment of teamwork and inclusion. We want people to feel comfortable enough to say, hey, I'm struggling right now, kind of like I was as a sales rep, and just raise their hand and say, hey, something isn't clicking. So what are you doing to be effective? Because I notice you on my team are, crushing your numbers every month. You're hitting your sales, and your average deal sizes are, leaps and bounds better than mine. And we built that environment specifically because in a typical sales environment that is a commission based, a lot of times you'll see people don't want to share freely because, there's an environment of, I don't want to share because you may take some of my commission. And that's just not something we have. And we're very proud of that. We, in the words of my boss, we jealously guard our environment. And so we want people who are willing to share and be open and good teammates. That's a
Okay.
great question, Nick. Thanks.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Nick, for that. And one of the things you spoke about, is teamwork. The other thing that, I think our students are particularly interested in, if you hire an intern or you hire, someone just right out of college, what are some of the skills that you're looking for? One of the top skills that employers usually look for is someone that shows initiative. You don't have to tell them every second what they should be doing, that they take the initiative to go even further to get the job done. And so what are you looking for? What's N3 looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. You really hit it on the head. We look for, again, self-starters, people who we don't have to necessarily wonder, hey, are you going to get out and make your sales? Are you going to make your calls? We want folks who are, again, willing to share and communicate. I think that especially since March, that has been our biggest driver. When we go through interviews, we look for people to tell us about, examples in their past work history or, past experiences in college, especially in like group settings. What roles did you actively take without being told to take that role? We want people who are driven and motivated to make money. Obviously, sales is definitely got a motivation by money, but also just willing to get up and do a great job and be a great representative for us and the companies that we are technically selling on behalf of.
Okay. And Cory, I'm sure that you are heavily involved in selection and the hiring process since you're, a supervisor. Um, and you get a resume or you look at a resume or you look at an application, you know, and you talked about some of the skills. What are you looking for? What can someone put on their resume, or how should a resume look to get your attention? To say, wow, this person really stands out. This person is really making an effort to make a good impression to N3.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we look for people who have previous sales experience, whether that comes from internships. If you don't have any, quote unquote sales experience, a lot of people think retail is not considered sales experience. It absolutely is. Anything where you have been customer facing and you rely on speaking to folks to generate business. We could look at people in the restaurant industry, people who have been serving in the past. That is almost 100, your money is almost 100% based on, how you interact with those around you. So good communication skills. We look for people that have sales experience. Our only barrier to entry is a 4-year degree. All of our employees have to have a 4-year degree. But we, in the past, and Glenn, you and I were talking about it earlier, we've done some internships, both paid and unpaid. And we're looking to start that back up again once we safely can, and resume, back to normal rhythm of business. But yeah, we absolutely look for people with sales experience. Anybody who can come to an interview and demonstrate ways that they've been effective at communicating in teams and groups in the past is also going to give them a good leg up.
Very good. So once they get the resume into you and they've made a good impression, they've got a clean, targeted resume. And the resume is very impressive, and maybe they also attach a cover letter to that, and it shows you their communication skills. And once they get that going and they come in, or probably now they're going to do a virtual interview with you, everything's going to be on Zoom or some other platform. What should they wear? How should they prepare for that interview? And then also, should they, what should they do post interview? Should they do anything to kind of make themselves stand out? So,
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. You definitely always want to play it safe as far as we are doing virtual interviews, and business casual is acceptable. Absolutely. I think that I would be doing everyone a disservice if I said it's not important, your appearance when you do, especially virtual interviews. But definitely, business casual for us is acceptable. Now, as far as things you can do after the interview, good rule of thumb is to always just ask what next steps are. We want to have people who are engaged with us. It's one thing to come to an interview, but it's another thing to send a follow-up and just say, hey, I appreciate your time. Please let me know if there's anything else, I can do on my end, or when should I expect to hear back from you, is always acceptable. And I certainly encourage it. I know for me personally, when I finish an interview, every time I send I used to give business cards, but now since we're doing it virtually, I make sure that the applicant has my email address, and they can reach out to me with anything. They also get my business number. And so, they can always reach out to me. We do a great job at reaching back out. Regardless, we will always do a follow-up. But yeah, I think that's a really good way to stand out and to, certainly move your name up on the list, is show that you're interested.
I agree. And I think that, if you send a thank you note or a thank you email to an employer, I was discussing this with someone last week, and when I've had conducted searches for jobs for a graduate assistantship or even full-time positions within the college, and I interview 3, 4, 5 people, I can almost bet you every time I only get one thank you a note, and that makes an impression. It tells me that person has followed through, experience, and if they are in the job, they're going to follow through all the way through the interview. And so I think that's definitely very important in the
Yes, sir.
process.
Absolutely.
And your career has been in sales. So once they get the job, and you've had a great career, and I'm sure they would want to take your advice. What makes a good salesperson? I mean, what really makes you? They're going to have to sell themselves in the interview, or they're going to have to always say practice an elevator speech, right? So you get in an elevator, and Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or Sheryl Sandberg or somebody, Brad Smith. Or Mr. Cohen's in the elevator. You get in that elevator and you have 30 seconds to make an impression. How can they do that? And I think some of those skills in customer service sales they're transferable. And so how can they do that? How can they make a really good impression as far as sales are concerned?
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to cultivate an effective elevator pitch is huge. One thing though, if you got through the interview process and you came to work for us, we do a great job at from our training department all the way down to your manager, consistently coaching and helping people to evolve and cultivate their sales pitch. So what do I think the most effective salespeople that we have do as practice is they role play, and they'll seek people out around them who are also really effective and good salespeople to basically sharpen their saw. They want to talk to people who are better than them. And that's great. We look for that. Again, it goes back to the initiative and the follow through, because what may work for me may not work for you. But I bet if you and I and 5 other people got in a group and we all role played together and bounced pitch ideas off of each other, we would probably come up with something really effective and something that could be useful. So again, I think it just goes back to having initiative to, want to better yourself and want to be the most effective salesperson that you can be. The elevator pitch is not the easiest thing in the world to cultivate because again, as you mentioned, it's 30 seconds and you may only get one shot at it. And certainly with the kind of business that we do and the kind of sales that we do, our most effective people have good sales pitches. So I would just say that, that's definitely something we look for is just willing to learn, willing to put the time and effort in. And I mentioned it during my presentation, which was I wasn't great at it. And it took me really having to sort of make a decision that, hey, one thing or another is going to happen. I'm either not going to be in this role anymore, or I'm going to take the initiative to spend time on my craft and, bounce ideas off of folks and talk to people. I don't know a lot of really good salespeople that aren't willing to put that work in.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I think that practice makes perfect, and that comes with an interview, a pitch, And the more that you practice, it's really important. And mock interviews are important. Once this pandemic's over, maybe we'll invite you back to campus. And one of the things that we used to do, one of the activities that we used to do during a regular academic year is we would have mock interviews. And I know many of our students were very interested in doing mock interviews, but maybe we can do that in the future and have you back on campus to do some of those activities and actually even help with resume development and talk about some of the skills that you're looking for as an employer. N3 has done some fantastic development as far as with our students. They have an internship program that's sort of inactive right now, but they actually have a facility here on campus they utilize for our interns, and our internships the interns can study on campus and go to class, and they also can work on campus. And so that hopefully in 2021 that'll be back up. N3 and Marshall have a great relationship, and Ken Boggs has been terrific, with definitely putting Marshall first and hiring our students and hiring and giving them job experience, and helping them with the resume development. So we really appreciate N3, but Cory, we also appreciate you coming in today and speaking with us. We're really thankful for you as an alum, and as you grow and develop and mature and in the company, we want to continue to bring you back on campus and keep you involved. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Glenn. Would absolutely be happy to do that. It's certainly something that I benefited from as a student myself, going through the mock interview process and absolutely getting help with resume writing. I would be honored to. I appreciate your time again. Thanks for letting me come speak to everybody. It's been a true honor and a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And I want to share a screen real quick. If I can share it real quick. This is our speaker for next week. Cory, you may want to even tune in for this. This is Kimberly Router. She's a supply chain and e-commerce strategist, and she's in Richmond, but she's also worked at Amazon and some other large companies. And so she's going to be speaking next week at 3:30, and it'll be on our Zoom account, and I'll be sending out the link to our students as well. And we look forward to Kimberly. She's a Marshall alum, has lots of experience in supply chain and e-commerce, and she's been a consultant with Amazon, with lots of different companies, and I think Intel was another company that she worked for. So we're excited about bringing her on campus next week. But Cory, thank you so much. And this concludes our speaker series installment. This makes the third one for this semester, and we look forward to next week. Thank you all so much, and have a great week. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.